With the inception of COVID pandemic, first time in the history, the global economy is facing synchronized and severe economic recession, affecting both developed and developing economies. To contain the spread of virus and flatten the pandemic curve, governments across the world have introduced lockdowns and containment measures. However, these measures have also resulted in unintended economic and social costs. As panic over the crisis gripped global markets, financial markets meltdown in many developed and developing countries pose a threat to global financial stability. As a matter of fact, financial institutions are facing a marked rise in non performing loans. The pandemic is having a severe impact on developing Asia and Pacific through various channels such as decline in consumption and investment, lower tourism and export receipts, and adverse effects on health. Many of the DMCs have seen substantial decline in foreign direct investment and free falls in remittances and almost a virtual collapse of the tax system. This has created massive problem for the public sector to mitigate the impact of the crisis. It is important to note that even before the pandemic, many governments already had high levels of public and private debt. The pandemic has put the debt problems of DMCs squarely once again under the spotlight. At the outbreak of COVID pandemic, external debt stocks of developing countries reached almost $10 trillion, more than twice of its value of $4.4 trillion registered in 2009. To pay for imports and to meet external debt obligations, majority of DMCs are heavily reliant on hard currency, earned primarily through exports and remittances inflows. However, with lockdowns and containment measures, demand for their exports and remittances inflows both have declined. As a result, most of the countries are increasingly cut off from conventional sources of income at a time when they need them most. With prolonged economic contractions, limited and deteriorating economic buffers, and heavy debt burdens, DMCs do not have much room to provide a proper response to mitigate the crisis. Moreover, with weak financial and capital markets, most of the governments, unlike developed countries, are not in a position to introduce huge fiscal and monetary stimulus package. Consequently, their reliance on external borrowing has further increased. From the ADB's perspective, it was most critical to be proactive and decisive in bringing financial support to its DMCs. The ADB decided to provide loan through its counter-cyclical support facility. This modality requires that the additional lending from ADB and from other development partners must not jeopardize the debt sustainability of the borrowing countries. This requires regional departments to conduct debt sustainability analysis to process the loans. Before 2020, before the pandemic, regional departments used to rely on IMF's debt sustainability analysis. However, with the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, IMF's analysis based on the prospects of economic growth and fiscal situation before the COVID-19 becomes obsolete. This would require an updated DSA reflecting the post-COVID-19 environment. To this end, Economic Research and Regional Cooperation Department formulated a team of economists and prepared a debt dynamic tool to analyze the debt sustainability. The framework was prepared during a critical juncture in ADB's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. In recognition of the uncertainty facing both ADB and its DMCs, ERCD adopted a more flexible scenario-based approach that utilizes minimal data requirement and still produces valuable insight about the likely debt trajectory in the medium term. The methodology is vetted by the IMF and framework produces projections of debt to GDP ratios under different scenarios. For example, the framework forecasts a baseline scenario that presumes no external lending and alternate scenarios based on lending from ADB, from other development partners, and a total loan scenarios that captures external lending from all the sources. Despite its simplicity, the flexibility with which framework can be used enable ERCD to meet the demands of the regional departments and help process the much needed financing to DMCs well on time. The success of this knowledge solution highlights the importance of teamwork and ERCD's active engagement and collaboration with RDs while working in different time zones. To further streamline the process, ERCD worked as a one ADB team member with the regional departments, which helped process the loan documents on time. As a result, While initially ADB announced a $6.5 billion package to address the immediate needs of the DMCs, by early September 2020, it enabled ADB to provide additional $13 billion, which increased the size of response package to about $20 billion. ADB's timely response and assistance has helped its DMCs to mitigate the impact of crises and plan for the post-COVID recovery. Thank you.